Okay, so today is DVD day. We've got a bunch of DVDs, some of whom are out for the first time, some of whom are out on Blu-ray. The Flowers of War. This was actually a pretty good movie. It was nominated as Best Foreign Movie from China, even though it stars Christian Bale. It was nominated for the Golden Globe. It's got a large and talented Chinese cast, and it's really a good movie. It's a bit too long and has huge number of plot lines in it. But the basic story is during the Japanese takeover of China, there's some orphans who live in a church, and Christian Bale shows up. He's kind of a ne'er-do-well. He's a drunk. He ends up pretending to be the priest. At the same time, the kids are there. A number of prostitutes seek sanctuary in the church. Japanese are not thrilled about this. They are complete thugs in this particular movie. It's a very violent movie as well. A whole bunch of subplots, sub-characters, and it does go on for a very long time. But there's real heart and soul to the story about redemption and second chances and love and I suppose the horrors of war. If you can weed through the fact that it goes on for a long time and focus on that it's beautifully shot, it really is, beautifully acted, you'll enjoy it. Christian Bale, I think, is one of those underrated actors that is terrific in everything. And he's just wonderful. He gets to play a whole range of emotions, and his transformation is absolutely convincing. I gave it 4.5 stars, so that's called The Flowers of War. All right, part of it's subtitled. Senna. This was a joint production between Universal Studios and ESPN. And you've heard me talk about the ESPN documentaries. I think a lot of them are really terrific because they really use sports really as the backdrop or even the metaphor for looking at personal stories. This is about a Formula One race car driver I'd never heard of. But I'm not exactly up on Formula One racers, so what can I tell you? He's from Brazil at the time in the 80s when Brazil was going through a great deal of upset and turmoil politically. He was an upper-class guy that was really the hope of Brazil and a gutsy racer. The documentary, which was shot, like 20 years ago or something, is extraordinary in that they've got a camera like on his helmet, and you'd think it was shot like yesterday. I don't know. I didn't know the technology even existed then. He won the world championship 3 times. You get to know him, his enemies, his friends, his family, and a whole lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that went on with him. But I'm not going to give away the ending. I'm not going to tell you any secrets. But this was another 4.5 star movie. It's really terrific. It's called Senna, S-E-N-N-A, and I believe this one's out on Blu-ray. It came out in 2009. So Blu-ray. On the Ice concerns this. This was sort of last year. There were a bunch of movies that came out about Barrow, Alaska. It was in Big Miracle with Drew Barrymore as well. Clearly, a lot of snow there. These are kids that go out in snowmobiles. A tragedy occurs, and the movie looks at how it affects all of their lives. One of the kids is an Inuit who's very smart and going off to college, and his friend clearly understands he's not going off to college. The scenery is unbelievable. The kids are sullen. The acting, unfortunately, it's a great story. The acting is pretty amateurish, which is a problem. It's sincere, but not very polished. Interesting story, so I gave it 2.5 stars. With real good actors, this would have been probably at least a 3.5 star movie. Blade 2 came out in 2002. Wesley Snipes, Chris Christopherson, Ron Perlman. This was Guillermo del Toro directed it. It's out on Blu-ray. Go Wesley. Chariots of Fire. Who among us cannot hear the theme song and see those guys running in slow motion just in time for the Olympics? Ben Cross, this was, I think, his first movie. 2 British track athletes, one a determined Jew and the other a devout Christian, compete in the 1924 Olympics. If you've never, have you guys seen this movie? You should rent it. It's a wonderful movie. And, the Chariots of Fire theme song, I mean, one of the best all-time movie themes. So, there's some other movies that are, I'll do a quick recap of some movies that either I didn't care much about or I didn't review. Frequency is Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel with father and son accidentally crossing 30 years. Brainstorm came out in 1983. Christopher Walken, Natalie Wood, Louise Fletcher. Astronaut's Wife. This was an odd movie. I remember this one. Charlize Theron, Johnny Depp, and Joe Morton. A pair of shuttle astronauts leave their spacecraft to repair a satellite. There's an explosion. They lose contact for 2 minutes. Both are rescued, return to Earth. Becomes evident neither of the astronauts is quite the same. I remember that one. Being Flynn, this one I didn't see. I think they didn't screen it. This is Paul Dano and Robert De Niro, Julianne Moore. Nick Flynn re-encounters his father, a con man and self-proclaimed poet. Sensing trouble in his own life, Nick wrestles with the notion of reaching out again to his dad. Didn't do well. An American Reunion. This one didn't do well either, even though it was on bus stops everywhere. Jason Biggs, Allison Hannigan, Sean William Scott. All of them have gone on to bigger and better things, and I think the reunion was probably not the world's best idea. But to recap, what is worth your time this week for DVDs: Flowers of War, not a kid's movie, not an easy movie, but great. Sen is terrific. On the Ice, so-so, mostly for the scenery. Blade, if you haven't seen it. I mean, Blade really should probably be seen on a big screen, but, you know, a lot of people's screens at home are getting to approach the size of a movie screen anyway. And Chariots of Fire, if you've never seen it, absolutely worth the time in preparation for the Olympics, which are starting in a little over 2 weeks. All right, more details at drjoyreviews.com or drjoy.com. I am Dr. Joy Browne.